Have we just seen a 10-year top in gold, or are we just getting started and it's just a buy the dip opportunity? I go through that in this video. By the way, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. First thing to do on the chart is we're going to zoom out. And when we look at momentum indicators, one thing I want you to know, this is a weekly chart, by the way. We're going all the way back now to 1980. You can see that in terms of peak momentum, you don't really get any divergence or warning on a weekly. However, we're going to have a look at shorter time frames. Same in the other significant peak, September 2011. Again, we just had a high momentum peak and that was it. It topped for, well, 10 years or more. Now what are we seeing? Again, a high peak. So how do we know that this is not the top? Well, let's drop down to a daily now. Same on the daily. If you go all the way back to 2011, you can see it's just one singular peak. So the way to determine this is you have to get onto either 4-hourly or 8-hourly chart. On that, you will see some divergence. For example, here in August and September 2011, you can see it clearly here. A higher peak and then a lower peak on the MACD and the RSI. So this can be an indicator that we're due either a correction or obviously a top. And here we haven't really seen a clear indication yet. So what I'm saying is, if we get a correction, we go back up and there's a lower reading on the RSI and the MACD, that potentially could be a sign of a top. Next thing we look at is market structure. Momentum is just one thing we look at. You see the last consolidation area here. From here, we basically need to trace out a 5-wave move, and that will likely mark the top. And on here, just even with the naked eye, you can see some alternation there. You can see zigzag there. You can see a sideways correction there. This sideways correction lasted a few months. That's what you want to see in potentially a 2 and a wave 4. So if this is the case, then we could be doing the final move where the low began in around May. So let's zoom into that area. Notice how this time from the May low, we had a move up and then it was more of a flat sideways correction. And we usually like to see alternation. Now this was a large correction, which lasted several weeks. We haven't seen a wave 4 larger correction yet. Could that be happening right now? And if it's happening, you would expect it to be more a sharp one rather than a flat one. That might be going on right now. And I'll discuss short-term kind of areas of support and targets in just a moment. But that's what I'm wondering is going on. Now, you could argue that these little moves here, that was a wave 4 and we're just done. And remember, this is trading, it's probabilities. You can't discount that. But I think personally, I think it's less likely. And just before we get onto the short term, what's the sentiment? Sentiment is also popular. At the moment, it's very mixed. Gold stolen, gold soars, gold suddenly falling, gold tumbles, very mixed. But I'm sure you saw recently people lining up outside stores across the world just to buy gold. And sometimes when you see stuff like this, it's understandable people say that this potentially could be a top indicator because this is quote unquote retail now buying gold. But in my experience, this is usually just before a top. So there's usually a little bit more to go. Now, obviously, there's another way you can look at this and you can say that this is the new world we live in now. And I'll get into that in just a minute. And there is a scenario there where we could just start going crazy in gold for a longer period of time, an extended period of time. So let's have a look at the short term and discuss that. So in the short term, this is an hourly chart now. What I was hoping to see was a zigzag correction. That looks like it may have begun. This looks like from the top, one impulse down. We need 2 impulses down with a connected corrective move. So basically it will look like this. Down, squiggle up, and then one more sharp move down where everybody gets scared, think the top is in, and that's actually a really good buy opportunity. And the levels you're looking at here are around the 3,900 level. Also, if you trace from the July lows where potentially a wave 3, we call it, could have started, then you'd look at fib levels as well. And in terms of fib levels, the 382 falls exactly at 3955, 3945, same area. That's called confluence when you get 2 indicators. So potentially if you've got a dump to there, that could be an opportunity. Lower ones, where there's also support, 3824, which lines up with the 0.5. Any lower than that, I would definitely start to be worried that the top is already in. You'd expect support here and here. And then all we're looking for, I prefer the higher one. That would kind of match what gold has done in previous runs, where this last 5th move has happened very, very quickly. And it's just literally straight line parabolic. So what I'm thinking is We have one final move on lower momentum. Remember the momentum I showed you before, the oscillators? It will be lower, and that would mark the top. And that could happen, like I said, very, very quickly. It could be in the next few weeks we see a top for gold. Now, what's the other thing that could be going on longer term? It's important to note that longer term, depends what you believe, debasement, trade and stuff like that. I don't really get into that. As a trader, I kind of ignore all of the noise and stuff like that. I just focus on the charts. And on the charts, basically, gold was consolidating between kind of COVID times all the way up to 2024, doing nothing, but it was consolidating around highs. And anything is messing about consolidating around highs, usually the breakouts can be extremely strong. And once it started consolidating above, that's when we saw it was just a rocket. And over the last year, it's just literally straight line up. So that's not strange from a trading point of view. This is what you would expect on this type of breakout. Now, because we've gone up in a straight line, the problem is when the top is in, it could be a straight line down, not all the way down again. It's going to hold a higher level. And this is the next thing to discuss. When it's done, either it's small probability is done already, but in my opinion, I think it can still run to 4.5 or 5 as a final and kind of climatic top. Parabolic top. So let's say if it finishes at 4.5 for argument's sake, then this structure is done. But then after that, this structure potentially could then get a higher low, a larger time frame higher low. So for example, it could drop to 618 or 0.5, so around the 3000 level. But this would take a longer time. This will take a year or 2 years, possibly more. But then from there, we could potentially go up again. And that will be the next move that could go up to 10K or beyond. And you can't say that, it's not likely to happen. It's actually more likely to happen when you go onto a weekly chart, because on a longer term chart, gold is in a very, very healthy long-term uptrend. Takes forever. Once it gets going, massive periods of sideways and not doing anything, but then it continues to run. And with the way, the printing currency and stuff like that, that shouldn't change anytime soon. It's just, do you really want to be holding for several years while it's going down and sideways? Probably not. As a swing trader, I certainly wouldn't be. But anyway, for the short term, we're looking for that pullback, zigzag pullback. Now, if you're a very keen trader and you trade very short-term swing trades or leverage even, this is what you're looking for here. So if I look at this pattern, it's looking more like a complex structure, and this going sideways actually supports the fact that we're flagging. So basically, we look as traders, we look for flag patterns. So what you look for here is, again, just nonsense going sideways, and then it to spike above these highs, take liquidity, so everyone thinks, oh, going back to all-time highs, and then it suddenly dumps. And that's where potentially you can take a short trade on gold, and it will follow this. So the length of this, it will either be 1-to-1 or 0.618, the length of this initial move down, when it does happen, if it does obviously happen. Now, can we just go straight up to all-time highs from here? Yeah, but this, like I said, is looking a bit more impulsive than corrective. And the time frames here, this literally is a one-day correction, where I showed you the other one lasted a few weeks. So I think this could mess about for a little bit longer, and everyone get a bit bored of gold, and then maybe in a couple of weeks or so, that's when we do the final rally. That's what I think anyway. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and if you'd like more updates on gold, again, comment below and let me know. Thanks for listening.